and welcome to Good Deeds Real Estate with a Mission. I'm Diane Davidson, and this is Bill Weidecker. And everyone must know by now, business partners, life partners, yada yada. Okay, so we're constantly discussing, actually on a daily basis, and sometimes more often than that, our look back, the 7-day look back into the New Hampshire market and what the numbers, are telling us. So we thought, we discussed it beforehand and thought it would be helpful and informative for people to understand what we're seeing every day and what that means, our interpretation of it. So, and you're tracking 3 counties, I think, right? Merrimack, Hillsborough, and Rockingham?
Boy, you have a good memory, yes.
Was an alphabetical.
Well, I mean, anybody can track whatever's important to them. For me, it's the 3 most populated counties in the state.
Yep.
And it's all kind of in our market area. And so the reason I look at those is because I want to see a bigger metric.
Mm-hmm.
I also look at small towns too. Like, for instance, I looked this morning to get a sense of how many properties are on the market. Merrimack, New Hampshire, for instance, 15 properties in the entire town of Merrimack.
And that's condos, multis.
Single family. That's just single family.
Yeah.
But to give you an idea of what I look at, I'll just pull it up here.
Okay.
I track, the reason I look for the previous 7 days, Diane, is I'm looking to take the wobbles out of the market because lots of listings come on towards the end of the week, so those numbers spike up. Lots of properties go under agreement the beginning of the week, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, so those days spike up. But if you go for 7 days, it kind of evens it all out. And so, for instance, in the last 7 days, in these 3 counties, there's been 201 new listings come on the market. That's a good number. It's one that when we see something around 200, we think, well, maybe things are looking up. There's more inventory coming on. In spite of that, there's been 283 properties that have gone under contract. Mm-hmm. So 200 come on, or 201, 283 go under agreement. The math tells us that that's 1.4 buyers to every new seller buying a property. So you can see that the inventory is still being eaten up at a pretty good clip.
And Bill, I actually look at the whole state numbers.
Yeah.
And there it's even more. It's even a higher percentage of buyers outstripping sellers this past 7 days.
I would imagine, because here's the other part is if you look at take for instance Coos County. The median sales price in the state of New Hampshire is now $450,000. And so if you're looking for something affordable, Coos County offers an affordable alternative. There are many people buying second homes in Coos County now because they can't afford them in the Lakes region counties, Belknap and et cetera. Mm-hmm. And that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So you would see more buyers buying there than there are sellers coming on the market.
Right. And I think too, as time has gone on, many people can work remotely and either permanently full-time remotely or spending very little time required to be anywhere physically, so they can go further as long as there's internet.
Yep, that's the and we'll look back at this, I'm sure, in 10 years' time, maybe less, where we'll go, remember when we had to fight for internet connections? Look, it's everywhere and it's so easy. It isn't now. It's getting better. Mm-hmm. A couple of other things that I pay attention to is I look at the back on markets. Mm-hmm. I look at the price changes. And that tells me what's going on in the market as well, because price changes have ticked up. Mm-hmm. They're up a little bit more than what we normally see. For instance, in the last 7 days, there's been 116 sellers adjust their price. And that's because the price was wrong to begin with in the majority of cases. There's a few that raise, but the majority of the price adjustments are down. And that number means we're starting to see prices at which properties won't sell. Mm-hmm. Sellers can pick whatever price they want, but if it's wrong, the buyers aren't buying them, and time isn't making up for it.
And don't you think, I know we discussed this in prior weeks, but don't you think that's partly because we're sort of seeing the seasonal cycle that we used to see? Like, that's a typical behavior, a typical effect of a behavior in the early fall times when sellers always priced according to the hot market behind them in the spring, and they raised the bar, and the bar didn't need to be raised. The bar would have raised itself if it was appropriate. So people are adjusting down. I remember it happening just about every fall.
We're starting to see that happen. We're actually seeing a little bit more of a season
Yep,
for
exactly.
the first time in years.
Yep.
And then the other metric that I look at is the expired listings.
Well, you skipped back on, you said back on market. You talked about
Oh,
expired.
back on markets.
Rejections,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The back on markets is really this: a property that goes under agreement, a buyer decides to buy, and for whatever reason doesn't continue with the purchase, and that property now comes back on the market, and that number's ticked up.
And why do you think?
I'll give you, it's just pure hunch based on 40 years of experience, and that is that buyers are paying such premiums in their prices now, and there's more properties that they're just getting to a point where they're saying it's going to cost me more money than it would have a year ago. The prices are higher than it would have a year ago. The interest rates are higher. I don't need to do all this work if there's an inspection issue. They're pushing back.
Okay,
They're
so,
pushing back.
so you touched on it. Good segue. I think it's because there are more and more inspections. We're not hearing as many transactions or seeing as many come together where buyers are waiving the inspection. And so as a result of having inspections, they're sort of, they're finding out things that may have caused them to want to renege before. They just didn't have that ability since there was no inspection contingency.
Sure.
I think there are many more inspections, more inspections than not with transactions.
Yeah.
It was the other way around before.
We're kind of back to almost not quite normal with the inspections in the contracts, but a lot more than there was even 90 days ago.
Yep. Yeah, I think the other thing is the appraisal, when there's a gap in where property appraises and what somebody's willing to pay or has agreed to pay.
Yeah.
There are many buyers who don't have as much cash on hand to make up a gap if it exists. And so as a result, when appraisals don't come in for the agreed upon price or more, they have no choice but to decline. They are declined by the lender.
Yeah.
Comes on.
The last metric I look at is the expired listings. And so in the last 7 days, there's been 51 listings that have expired in the 3 counties. That tells me that these properties have been on the market for a period of time and the market rejected the offering. And so that's a number that we really didn't pay a lot of attention to 6 months ago, and now we're starting to see it.
And typically those listings, would you say 90 days, but typically they've been on the market for 6 months, right?
Yeah, 90 days. I think 90 to sure. That's not a bad. It's rare that somebody's going to put something on the market for 30 days or
Right.
60 days.
Right.
Could it be? Yeah, but I think you're right. More like 90 to 120, 150 days.
So they came on during they came on either in the spring when it was still pretty hot.
Sure.
Right. And into sometime during the summer.
And the market
Early
said
summer.
no.
Yep. For a
So
long time.
So I do believe that is a sign of the fact that we are starting to see some pushback. Other parts of the country, and we touched on this in our last blog, and that is other parts of the country are already seeing a much different market and slowdown. If you look at the foot traffic showings in other parts of the country, markedly down over where we were last year. New Hampshire, pretty much the same,
Mm-hmm.
not down.
Right.
So I think what it comes down to, everything's local. So as you're looking at, if you're a seller thinking about selling, really comes down to what's going on specifically in my county, what's going on in my town, what's going on in my neighborhood.
I want to say one thing about back to the expireds, not to belabor this, but when properties come back on the market, that listing, the clock keeps ticking, right? And so something goes under contract, like the coming back on the market contributes to the number of expired listings. Because they expire doesn't mean they weren't ever under contract during their
It's
tenure,
true.
right?
Yeah,
And
it could be.
So they a little bit, that does feed
Sure.
the expired number
Yeah,
a bit.
could be.
I think it is.
Well, could be.
Okay, so that's a good little look. Any other numbers in there?
No, it's enough for. There's a lot of numbers, but these are the basic ones that we look at every
Something
single
to
day.
look at.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for filling us in. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast platform and tune into our YouTube channel.